Hi, I'm Anonymous and this is my story. I was probably around 4 or 5 when I realized that I was attracted to boys. At that point, I thought it was probably something all boys felt or a stage that we all went through and that eventually I would grow out of it. However, as I neared puberty, it dawned on me that this was not the case for all boys. With much of what was taught in our Sunday school services, I began to feel so much guilt about my feelings and began to tell myself that this would be a secret I would have to take to my grave. I even promised myself that I could not let anyone find out. I prayed hard, very hard for God to change me. I wanted to be just like everyone else, but I could not pray the gay way. I went into depression early in my teen years with many suicidal thoughts. I would spend sleepless nights wondering what my life would turn out to be. How would I live with this sin and how would I cope up with it? During this time, I began to notice the very nuanced forms of homophobia as well as the very apparent forms around me. It was the way friends, family, classmates, teachers, and preachers would talk about homosexuality. There was always a tinge of disgust and hate in these conversations. This external hate eventually was internalized, and I loathed myself. It was in college that I could not just deal with it anymore. I felt suffocated and breathless, carrying around a secret about myself that I just could not change. I wanted to be myself, authentically, unabashedly myself. So I did what I felt would give me a sense of freedom. I came out to my friends and siblings, and I actually received the best response. They could care less about who I was attracted to and just wanted me to be happy. They still remain the most positive group of people around me till date. This helped me be more comfortable with my sexuality, and then I eventually found love, both romantic and for myself too. I began reading queer books, queer theories, especially during my postgrad, that only gave me the confidence to be myself and find safe spaces where I could come out. Leaving Nagaland for my studies only opened up the world of possibilities and exposed me to many more safe spaces with people like myself and allies where we could talk about discrimination, our mental health, the difficulties we have encountered, and our aspirations for a just world. My first sprite was in university. I was very nervous, but I went with so many of my friends who were queers or were allies. We screamed slogans at the top of our lungs, danced and grooved, and celebrated love, resistance, and our want for freedom. When Article 377 was struck down, we joined a pride march to celebrate and then partied the night away celebrating a historic moment. Even though such changes have happened in the legal aspects, the reality is quite different, especially for our state, Nagaland. We still remain discriminated and fearful of what might happen if we come out. We fear for the safety of our loved ones, our own lives, and the very possible violence, shame, stigma that this will invite. The preaching in our churches continue to be homophobic, transphobic, and discriminatory. Right after Article 377 was removed, the churches came up with a statement that was uh, stated that it was unacceptable. I was not surprised, but it did pain me to read it. Maybe I had a glimmer of hope in the midst of all the celebrations that our churches and our state too would celebrate with us. Language is so mundane and part of the everyday, yet it is one of the most powerful tools that can be deployed. What I was taught made me hate myself. Every classroom conversations or Sunday preaching that was anti-queer, every homophobic slur that was used to describe people like me, homo, sissy, girly, feminine, pushed me into the abyss of self-hate, hate that has taken me years to unlearn. We have to begin conversations around the queer community, conversations that don't revolve around and Gomorrah, sexual deviation, internal damnation, and a plethora of others that have scarred many of us, pushed us into depression, forced to hate ourselves and denied ourselves of things that straight folks have often taken for granted. I hope we begin conversations around justice, inclusivity, trauma, pain, gender, and sexuality. Maybe it's too utopian to imagine a just Naga society, but I cannot help but have hope. Maybe it will be for the generation of queer folks that come after me, but I hope they inherit a kinder world.